Hi, welcome to Tercen. My name is Martin, and today I'm going to discuss data format. We'll spend some time defining data elements, and we'll take a look at how these elements can be analysed differently depending on whether they're laid out in a wide format or a long format. First, let's clarify some terms. Here's a conceptual layout of a data frame. 3 words describe the elements of a data frame: observation, variable, and measurement. It's important to have a good understanding of what these mean. An observation is a set of data points. It usually represents an individual case in an area of interest. It usually contains multiple characteristics that are recorded about that case. It could be an animal, a person, a machine, a chemical compound. Anything we record data about, really. A variable is a descriptor for a characteristic recorded about an individual. It is a property that can vary between individuals. Height, weight, and eye colour are variables in individual humans. Voltage, temperature, fuel level can be variables in an individual machine. A measurement is a single data point. It is the value of a particular characteristic for a single individual. For the observation named Martin, the measurement of the variable called eye colour is blue. When we build multiple variables and multiple observations into our data frame, we create a matrix. Most people call it a table. You see, I've laid out my table in the traditional way, with observations forming rows and variables forming columns. You might ask, why not just use the words row and column instead of observation and variable? Well, because even though most people lay out data this way, not everybody does, and not every situation calls for it. For example, biology datasets are often laid out with the observations as columns and the variables as rows. Like this genomics dataset, for example. The cells are the observations and the genes within them are the variables. Now that we understand the terms, let's take a look at formats. The traditional way of laying out data with observations as rows and variables as columns is called wide format. Wide format is easy for humans to read. That's why most people use it. Here's some bird watching data in wide format. Observation is the bird species. The variables are tree species that the birds were observed nesting in. Measurement is the number of pairs observed in that tree. When it's converted to long format, it looks like this. It's the same data, but with subtle changes to how it's laid out. You will see that observations are not single rows anymore. But the table is not like the gene expression chart. It's something new. We've moved from rows having a single observation with multiple measurements to rows having only a single measurement. Note how the observation name has been copied down and matched to each variable. We've gone from a matrix where the intersection of observation and variable locates a measurement to a list where the combination of observation and variable locates a measurement. This process of converting data from wide format to long format has been called different things by programmers. It's sometimes referred to as a melt, a gather, or lately, pivot longer. If you hear these terms, just know they mean the same thing. Take note of the 2 new groups that have been created by this process. This is one of the major reasons for converting to long format. There is a new group for the variables and a new group for the measurements. There are advantages to converting from wide data to long data. Those new groups can be used in calculations and visualizations when previously individual variables would have to be selected. Because each measurement is fully defined, it's easier to process by software. Computers work better with lists than with matrices. There are other advantages. Wide datasets are generally considered to be more human readable, but that becomes less so when we have very wide datasets. This dataset has 306 observations and 60 variables. Spotting an error in the data, or even reading the results for a single patient, has now become a lot more difficult. When we see the same data in long format, it's easier to read by eye, and you can more easily use spreadsheet tools like sorts, filters, and functions to find any anomalies. Long format also makes it easier to enrich your data by simplifying variables or adding annotations. This biology dataset is small enough to read easily, but converting to long format still gives advantages. Long format allows me to split the variables and make the data more queryable. Further annotation of the measurements is now possible. I've added a texture annotation to the crab limb variables. This can't be done in wide format. In Tercen, we have two places you can gather data into long format. On the import wizard, there's an advanced button. You can select the variables you want to gather using the checkboxes or the search filter. You name the new gathered columns here. Values are the measurements. This will import your data pre-gathered into Tercen. The second way you can gather long data is by adding a step in your workflow. Select the variables as before. In the data step, Tercen will auto-assign the names of your new gathered columns. So, that's how the format of your data impacts how analysis can be done with it. If you want to read more about data structure, we recommend the work of Hadley Wickham from the RStudio team. We'll leave a link to his white paper on tidy data in the notes below this video. Thanks for watching.